So welcome to my YouTube channel. That's what we call Good Life. Today I'm going to be talking through all the jobs you can be doing and I'm going to be doing in the month of April. And if you've not already subscribed to my channel, if you could please do so, because you'll get lots of helpful hints and tips all throughout the year from my allotment, my home garden, and from time to time my home kitchen. Now, I'm at my allotment. It's the beginning of April and there's lots of jobs I can be doing. The days are getting longer and it's really starting to warm up. Not that warm, but it's definitely getting warmer. I can have my jacket undone and not always wearing my coat for a start, so things are definitely looking up, albeit it's been a little bit wet and windy the last couple of days up here. So I'm going to be talking about weeding and potting on and sowing and all sorts of things, and at the end of the video I'm going to actually be starting off some of my courgettes myself, so stay tuned for that so you can see how I'm going to be planting my courgettes in pots at home. So, things you can be doing. Now, believe it or not, there are actually a few things you can be harvesting. You wouldn't think it, would you, really? You think nothing would be growing this time of year, but I've got a lovely amount of rhubarb that I've already harvested, and already I've given some away to my brother-in-law, so there's plenty of rhubarb I can be harvesting, and I still seem to have some kale and some chard at home. So I do still have some things. I've put some chard into a meal that I did yesterday, so there really are still things that you can be harvesting even at this time of year, believe it or not. And if you're a forager, there's loads of wild garlic out there. Now, moving on to things you can actually be doing on your plot. Now, there's obviously lots of weeding and ground preparing you can be doing, and I've got loads to do myself. Now, it can seem really overwhelming this time of year, even for a seasoned gardener like myself, with all the jobs that you can be doing. So don't be put off if you're new to gardening, or if you're like me, you've been doing it for years and it seems you've got a mountain to climb. You will get there. Just do a little bit at a time and you'll be surprised with what you can get done. So weeding and preparing the ground is a really big thing to do, and if you have got ground to prepare and you're struggling to get it under control, or you've dug quite a lot over and you're worried that the weeds are going to grow quicker than you can get it planted in, because obviously we can't plant some things at the moment because even though it's warming up, there is still a chance of frost. You can get something called ground cover, which we use an awful lot, and it's a complete lifesaver for us, and we'll put a link up on the screen and down in the comments for you to purchase some weed cover if you don't know where to get it. And we have got an Amazon shop, and we do have to tell you we'll make a little bit from it, just so you're aware, but it's been an absolute game changer for us. We've actually got a little bit more allotment this year because unfortunately my father-in-law, although he's still going to come up the allotment and give us a hand, he doesn't want his own bit anymore, which is a real shame, but he is 80 and he does have a very big home garden, so he does do quite a lot. So the bit that he's not able to dig over yet, I've covered with some weed suppressant so it doesn't get overgrown and I can get to it a bit at a time. So I've got a little bit extra work to do this year, but it's really exciting at the same time because there's some really fun things that I'd like to get planting in there as well. So moving on to some more jobs you can be doing in the month of April on your allotment or your home garden. Now, if you feel that you're getting really good value out of this and you want to, you can do something called Buy Me a Coffee. We will put a link up on the screen and in the description. It's not obligatory, but if you could buy me a coffee, that would be absolutely fantastic. But if all you can do is like, comment and subscribe, I would be more than grateful. So let's move on to those jobs that you need to be doing. Now, I've started off quite a lot of seedlings at home, so I'm going to be potting them on, and that's going to be in a future video. So if you've subscribed to my channel, you'll get an alert for that. So that's a job that's going to be keeping me really busy. Another job you can be doing is keeping an eye out for pests. Believe it or not, this time of the year there are still quite a lot of pests around, and they come in all shapes or forms. You know, there are aphids, the slugs, the snails, there's all sorts of things you need to be keeping an eye out. When we came up to the allotment today, we found quite a lot of snails on our trees, so on our fruit trees, and in particular some of them were on the little blossoms that have started to form, because on some of our trees the blossoms are quite well advanced and they were nibbling at our blossoms. So we spent a little bit of the morning just knocking all the snails off to stop them from taking our precious blossom, otherwise we won't get any fruit. Other jobs you can be doing, if you've not already done so, is getting some of your potatoes in. I've got my Charlotte potatoes in, and I've got some Kestrel, which are second earlies, and some main crop Maris Piper. As a general rule of thumb, try and get your second earlies in by the middle of April, and then from the middle of April to the end of April, try and get your main crop in. But as long as you've got them in by the end of the month, you're doing fine. Now, I've got my brown onions in my allotment, but I still need to get my red onions in, and I'll be getting those out this month as well. I also sourced myself some asparagus crowns, so if you've not done that and you want to get some asparagus in, I've popped some in my raised beds. And I also got myself some Jerusalem artichokes. Now, I don't know if you've ever grown them. They're very different to globe artichokes. Globe artichokes are above the ground. Jerusalem artichokes are tubers. Look a little bit like potatoes, but the texture is quite different. I had them for many years, and somehow, despite the fact they're meant to be very difficult to kill, somehow we had a very harsh winter and a very harsh spring, and they managed to just not come back. So normally they're quite hard to kill off. But I've managed to source some more, so that's a job that I will be doing. Something else you can be doing is you can be direct sowing into the ground. Is something which I'm going to be doing. There's various things you can be sowing: beetroots, carrots, lettuce, radishes, that sort of thing. There's lots and lots of things you can actually be sowing direct into the ground, which is absolutely awesome. Far easier than faffing around with lots of pots. Now let's head back off home, and I will be showing you how I'm planting my courgettes and my squashes and giving you some top tips. So I'm now back home, and I'm going to be potting on some courgettes and squashes, and it is by far one of the most exciting things for me. I absolutely love this time of year when I start getting my squashes and my courgettes in. There's so many different varieties of squashes and courgettes you can be starting off. It's just such an amazing colour and inspiration for the coming year. So I've got my compost all mixed up here. I mix core with a normal multi-purpose, and that works really well for me. So I've got some lovely sized pots here that I pop my courgettes and my squashes into. So I just fill it right to the top and flatten it down. So I'm just going to do a few pots. I will fill that propagator completely full with my squashes and courgettes. I start off way more than I need. Some for me, some for the slugs, and some for friends and family. I'd rather start off more and share them than not have enough. They're such easy things to start off, and quite honestly they're such easy things to give away if you do get too many. So that's a really, really simple thing to do. So there's some pots started up, and all I need to do now is choose some seeds. So I've got a whole array here, so I'll start a few courgettes off and a few squashes, and when I get a bit of room I'll take them out and then I'll put some more in. So what ones have I got in here? So I have some spaghetti squash, which are these ones here. So I'm going to start those ones off first. I normally do, in a pot that size, about four or three to a pot. So I'll see how many are in there. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'll put 3 in one and 4 in the other, and I just pop them into the corners like that. So you pop them down about the depth of the seed, so you've got about the depth above the seed above it. Some people debate whether flat or up. I generally have it upright, so I will just drop it down like that, gently poke it down with my finger or the tool, and then just rough it over. So ever so simple, not difficult at all. I will water these when I put them in there, and unlike very small seeds where you have to water from the bottom and let it rise up, these you can just water over the top, but do make sure you've got like a rose over the top when you watered it. So there we go. As these have only got 3 in that one, I will just pop them in. So you can push them in just with the little tool, so they're in, because I forgot to make a hole, and then just drop them in very gently and cover them over. When they've come through a lot more than they currently are, I will separate them into separate pots, but I normally do about 3 or 4 per pot, all depending on the size of pot, because they might not all germinate. Who knows, those are last year's seeds, so they might not do. And all importantly, you must label them, because they are so difficult to tell apart. So I'll put squash on one side and spaghetti or spag on the other side, so I know which is which, because these are the type of plants that are really, really difficult to distinguish between a squash, a courgette, a cucumber, a pumpkin. It could be anything, so it's really, really important to label. So I'm going to get on and plant some more, but if you want an idea of more things that you can be sowing or planting in the month of April, please watch my video.